Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you. I'm Tom Lehman from Facet, and I'm here to present on a topic called how to build a Stage 2 Ethereum Rollup. And Facet is the only general-purpose Stage 2 Ethereum Rollup. This is from L2Beat, so those are my qualifications. And I'm here to talk you all through how to build a Stage 2 Rollup, how we did it, how you can do it. But actually, this morning, something happened. I clicked this button. This is the Sign the Trustless Manifesto pledge button. I'm sure you've seen this pledge. And the issue, if you read this pledge, you sign it, you have to pursue the cause of trustlessness. And actually, after I signed it, I realized I can't give the presentation I wanted to give. I have to give a new presentation, which is called How to Build a Trustless Ethereum Rollup, and why Stage 2 actually isn't enough. If you sign this manifesto, you are not allowed to give a presentation on how to build a Stage 2 rollup, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so to review, first, the stages, right? If you go on L2Beat, you can look this up, and here are the stages. You need to have something simple, and I really appreciate L2Beat, even though I don't agree with everything on there. Green, yellow, red. You have red, stage 0. That's the centralized stage, fully centralized. The green, Stage 2, that's fully decentralized, or that's the idea. And then you have the kind of centralized in Stage 1. If you see L2Beat today, you'll see many, many people in the kind of centralized bucket, and only two rollups in the Stage 2 bucket, and Facet is the only general purpose one. But is Stage 2 actually fully decentralized? And in fact, was Facet's goal even just to build a Stage 2 rollup? Well, if you look at the criteria for Stage 2, you can see there are a few elements. First two elements are pretty uncontroversial. Anyone should be able to exit the system, withdraw your money without operator help, so that's a fully open-proof system. You should be able to get transactions included without a centralized sequencer helping you, so that's forced transactions. And then there's this question of the exit window. Stage 2 rollups are still permitted to have admins, permitted to have privileged users who have more power than normal users. But this power is restrained by an exit window, by a restriction that if an admin wants to change the rules of the system in a way that hurts you, in a hostile way, they can't do it immediately. They have to give you time to react. A 30-day exit window is required. And so one question you might ask is, how good is this exit window? And particularly, how good is it for trustlessness if you sign the manifesto? If you didn't, you should listen before you sign it. So if you believe in the Trustless Manifesto, if you signed it, you cannot support exit windows. This is my contention here, and this is why you cannot support Stage 2 alone. And the reason for this is very simple. Trustlessness requires absolute guarantees. Okay, this is an absolute question. Is a system trustless, right? So one absolute guarantee is, this is a quote from the manifesto, censorship resistance. Any valid action can be included, right? Any valid action, okay? An exit window gives you this. For the next 30 days, during the exit window, any valid action can be included. So what is the difference between these two guarantees? Obviously, a lot, because of 31 days out, you have no guarantee. And so you could sign a modified version of the manifesto that restricts the guarantees to the duration of the exit window, and that's fine. But if you sign the main one, I don't think you can accept the fact that censorship resistance is not absolute. And so, the Trustless Manifesto also mentions landlords. Landlords are a good metaphor for this. You have a privileged person who has power over where you live, right? In the real world, that's a pretty powerful thing. On the blockchain, it's equally powerful when you think of someone in that position. And if a landlord can shut you out of your house, that's bad, even if they can give you a notice. Worse still, in the real world, you can take your stuff with you if you get evicted from your house. You can pack up your couch. But in the rollup, there are things you can't take with you. So if you have assets that you've issued on the rollup, if you have in-progress open bets, so perpetuals, if you have a vesting contract, you have things that are in progress that cannot be easily settled in time to leave, you can't exit with them. And in fact, we see a very surprising fact, which is that the Ethereum Foundation's own guidance is basically, don't issue assets on the L2. Don't create things you can't move when you get evicted, right? The Ethereum Foundation says, issue on the L1, bridge to the L2. This is on the Ethereum Foundation's guide to institutions using Ethereum, and this is, good guide for anyone using Ethereum today. Don't issue on the L2. That's what they're saying, right? And that is very valid advice, but you might want to ask yourself, do I want a system where I can't issue assets? And users have spoken. They're issuing a ton of assets on the L2, and in fact, you have to issue assets on the L2 when you use apps. Liquidity tokens are one very simple example of this. So this is a difference between the L1 and the L2 that we're going to unpack a little more. So perpetuals are a great example of this because the reason that perpetuals can live on a blockchain is because blockchains can have, at least nominally, this notion of perpetuity. It can go on forever. You can have open bet forever. There's no built-in system within the EVM that limits the duration of a contract's existence and ability to compute. 30 exit window is not perpetual. A THRP is not a perp. Okay, so if you're thinking, wait, a THRP, is that as good? A 30-day, the point is, you could have a perpetual called a THRP, but no one would buy it. People want the perp, the real version, the perpetual that lasts the full duration of the open bet. So what we need is rule by code. That's what trustlessness is about. Rule by code, not by landlords, and that means we can't have landlords with power. Very basic. So no one should be able to change the code that governs your experience on a blockchain if that blockchain is going to be called trustless. No one. It's immutable. And so this is an interesting parallel. You might imagine, like, okay, there was a time on the iPhone when you had to manually update your apps, right? Every time you needed to update your app, you'd open up your phone, go to the App Store, update your app. Very, very inconvenient, right? Then they released automatic updates. They, in fact, have automatic updates on your operating system, on your iPhone at least. You might ask yourself, why not do that for the Ethereum L1? Why not build in an upgrade ability into Ethereum nodes to enable the Ethereum Foundation to upgrade everyone's node went to the correct version, quote-unquote correct version, when there is a hard fork? So much more convenient than what has to happen today, which is you have to actively take an action. Obviously, despite convenience, people would reject this, right? Because the upgrade has to be voluntary, and the rollup environment is not different from the L1 in this way. We should have the same demands. So we need immutable rollups. How do we do it? This is kind of the other side of it. So the first element is transaction inclusion. Can you do anything on the rollup? And this is a fairly simple thing to fix, which is why it's kind of bizarre that today rollups are so admin-gated on forced inclusion, because the term forced inclusion sort of indicates that if you're forcing a transaction, you should be able to get around these admins. You should be able to do it anyway, even if the admins want to stop you. And yet, in typical rollups, forced inclusion flows through a smart contract that is admin-controlled and admin-upgradable, and this can be actually disabled. And so the first step, and this is like a very simple thing that I think rollups could do today, is to stop routing forced inclusion through an upgradable contract and do something different. Either use an immutable contract or an EOA address, an address with no code. And so you could do either, just by way of example of Facet, we use an EOA inbox for forced inclusion, which is this all zeros in phase 7, looks like Facet. This is nice because if there is a hard fork, users can continue to use the same inbox. They don't have to change contracts when the rules change because all of the rules are enforced off-chain. That's one way to do it. You could do an immutable contract. I think actually the best thing to do, and what we are working towards, is to enable any address to be the inbox for forced inclusion or any type of transaction sequencing. And the benefit to doing this is you can have the fewer restrictions you have, the greater potential you have to share data availability with other rollups. So if two people want to force transactions on two different rollups, they should be able to do that in the same Ethereum L1 transaction. So now we have the question of the proof system. So this is the main, we're got to protect users, training wheels. Standard rollups have proof systems that support messaging, but these cross-domain messaging proof systems have backdoors, or training wheels, as you might call them, that enable bugs to be fixed and the systems to be tuned for new upgrades. And so what you end up with is the entire structure of L2 to L1 messaging on these rollups governed by admins. And so no contract on the L1 can trust that unconditionally without also trusting the admins. And so what we need here, which is obvious based on what I've said so far, but also how we're going to do this, right? We need immutable proof systems. We need to get rid of upgrades on proof systems. We need to get rid of training wheels. We need to make them fully immutable, right? And so easy to say, right? Pretty easy to say, but but what about proof system bugs, right? This is the you can see a lot of discourse about this, right? Shout out to Tim Clancy, shout out to Sigil. I saw Tim going back and forth with many people on Twitter, but the idea keeps coming up. If you have an immutable proof system, or even a proof system with an exit window, how are we going to protect user funds? Because there are bugs, right? There are a lot of bugs. These are 3 random tweets. They all kind of relate to succinct, but you could Google for 2 seconds and see 1 million bugs, basically, for proof systems, and this is understandably scary. On the other side of the coin, you have the bugs with the multisig. They're not exactly bugs in the same sense, but they are surprising tricks that have been pulled that are impossible to anticipate in advance. And so in that respect, they are like bugs. They can't be found by inspection. Who could have ever foreseen how the Bybit hack would work? So from the first instance here, the proponents of upgradable admin proof systems have a little bit of a challenge. You can't just say the bugs are the problem. With the proof systems, the bugs with the multisigs are also the problem. And one question is, which bugs are worse, right? So you have Vitalik wrote this great blog post, and he said, here are some admittedly basic assumptions, right? His assumptions are not good, and he admitted them, right? But it's a good place to start. Shout out Vitalik, good for him for writing this. And he said, here is the model. Here's the model in terms of what you have to assume about how good the proof system is versus the corruptibility, so to speak, of the Security Council, and here's how you choose what stage you are on. Today, everyone universally, and there's only one general purpose stage 2 rollup, which proves this, everyone universally chooses assumptions that indicate that the greater risk is proof system bugs. But where are the models, right? So this is my shout out. It's like, if you believe that the proof system bugs are worse, you should make a model and spell out your assumptions and say why, because both things are bad. And so, just shouting out the Trustlessness Manifesto. Is it an excuse or is it real? We don't actually know. I think the people who are believe proof system bugs are worse are genuinely trying to create good outcomes for users, but it's always tempting to have admin control. So anyway, the big picture here is proof systems are prone to bugs, which is tough. Multisigs are prone to bugs, which is tough. Which one you view as worse depends on how you model things, but since we're looking from the perspective of trustlessness, we are trying to eliminate the admins and see if the best we can do with a trustless system. And so how can we do that? So we're going to do that by kind of changing a little bit about how rollups work, or at least in terms of thinking about how what rollups are supposed to be and supposed to accomplish. Okay, so there is this, the issue with proof system bugs is that they lead to users losing funds, but they don't have to. Okay, proof systems are abstract ideas, and they don't necessarily, the consequences they have depend on interpretation. So when we talk about rollups, there's a lot of, often the term bridge gets 2 concepts conflated. So there is one side of bridging, which is messaging, communicating back and forth messages between L1 and L2 smart contracts. And there's another side of bridging, which is actually holding onto funds on the L1, putting funds into an escrow contract and removing them based on the messaging system. So the messaging system says, hey, L1 contract, this is me, your L2 friend contract, and I'm telling you to release some funds to Tom. And it's going through this proof system, secured messaging system. And then the L1 escrow is the app that decides what to do. So if the escrow hears this claim, hey, I'm the L2 friend of yours, give Tom money, the L1 escrow can decide what to do, and they don't have to trust messages blindly. The apps that are consuming the proof system are ultimately responsible for securing the user's funds. Okay, the proof system is at least in this vision, right, is a neutral kind of newswire that says, here's what the code says the truth is, and apps are responsible for adding safeguards or trusting messages. And this is better because users can choose apps, but they can't choose the rollup. Or rather, once they're on the rollup, they are committed to the rollup. And so you can have an app that chooses whether or not to trust a proof system or how many training wheels to add, and that app can be chosen or not chosen based on how good it is from the user standpoint, versus the protocol-wide landlord. So this is how it works on the L1. All of this is modeled on the L1. So USDC, USDT on the L1, they're overlapping. Neither are trustless. Ethereum is not trustful because it has trustful stablecoins, right? What keeps the L1 trustless is that you don't have to use any of these escrows, right? You don't have to use any. You don't have to use any of these escrows. You don't have to use either. You can use one or not the other, and so forth. And the L1's job is to securely let you do what you want to do here, let you choose or not choose. And that's how L2 bridge escrows should work. L2 rollup should not be prescribing certain escrows, because if you prescribe them at the protocol level, then problems with the escrow infect the entire protocol. So this is how it already works today, in fact. So you can see the red is app-based escrow value, and the blue is rollup-based escrow value. And by rollup-based, I mean rollup escrows that rely completely on the canonical messaging system, that don't add additional training wheels. And as you can see, users prefer the app-driven sources of value. And this is something where there is one giant exception, though, and this is something that rollups do really need to change in order to fit this model, is the gas token bridge. So rollups can't get out of the business of escrowing funds if their gas token is minted in response to deposits to an escrow on the L1. In other words, you put ETH into an L1 escrow, and then you get a protocol-level asset, a gas token on the L2, right? So this links the L2 to this escrow, and so having training wheels on this escrow means that now the entire protocol can be compromised. Notably, admins could, freeze gas issuance, or worse still, mint infinite gas themselves and freeze everyone out of transactions. And so, again, we have this issue of a single escrow admin becoming the landlord for the entire protocol, which is what we want to avoid. And so on Facet, we handle this by having a non-bridged gas token. So a gas token that is that has no admin, that has no L1 contract, that is capable of minting it, that is minted purely by code. So when a user takes an action on the L1, in this case, force including a Facet transaction, the amount of ETH they burned in that transaction is is multiplied by a mint rate to determine the amount of L2 gas token, or FCT as we call it, the user gets. So there is no trust involved in getting the gas token. That means the gas token cannot be corrupted, which means that no admin can control the gas system and the rollup. And so this is a very big pill to swallow if you are used to using ETH on the L2, but if you want to avoid the trust associated with that, you really have no choice. Immutable rollups have three components. You need a mutable forced inclusion, you need a mutable proof system, and a proof system that doesn't say, hey, give this person money. It says, hey, this is what the L2 code says is true, right? That's it. The L1 has to decide whether that means to give the person money, to let the person withdraw from the escrow. And then we need an immutable gas token, which very likely today means that it's an algorithmically generated native token. We need to decouple escrows from the protocol, and L2Beat is already doing this. Luca Dono has a great post on L2Beat's discourse discussing how the notion of the canonical bridge in L2Beat is going to be shifted to refer more to the canonical messaging system versus any escrow attached to it. I think this is a very, very important move they're making. And then, yeah, just to sort of sum things up, like, this is not saying here is a better way to build a rollup, right? This is not saying if you build it this way, you're going to make a lot of money, your users are going to be happy. Same is true for Ethereum, right? You cannot say Ethereum is uniformly good. It is as the manifesto says, it is an enabler of freedom, right? Immutable rollups promise non-interference. Users might lose money, but if they do, it's because of their relationship with an app that ideally they chose, right? It's not because the rollup admin did something. They have control of their destiny, and this is exactly what the L1 hopes to do. Not make sure that you don't lose money, but make sure that you have the freedom without interference to engage with apps as you like. And so there's this guy, Diogenes the Cynic, famous guy from history. His friend once saw him and says, if you would eat lentils, if you would flatter the king, you wouldn't have to eat lentils. You would be able to eat better food because the king would give you better food. You'd be more comfortable. You wouldn't have to sit in the forum eating lentils. And Diogenes said, well, if you would just learn to eat lentils, you wouldn't have to flatter the Security Council, I mean king. And so that's kind of what this is about. You should choose what you want. Not every roll-up should endeavor to be immutable, but every roll-up that talks about trustlessness, every roll-up that talks about the values in the manifesto and aspires to live them, in my view, must be immutable. So whether you want to eat lentils or flatter is all good, but read the if you signed that pledge, you should take this immutability thing seriously. Thank you so much, and we have time, I think, for some questions. Don't run on each other. Just get in line. You have to.
Hello, hello. All right, so we have a remote question being asked here.
I can't hear actually. Is there?
Yeah, you can just come over.
Like at the stage here. Let me get it.
Oh no.
I got this. Yeah, this is good. Okay, try now.
Okay. The question. So I'm just the messenger here, but if we're encouraging L1 application safeguards on top of L2 proven messages, how do we prevent kicking the can of trustlessness down the road?
Yeah, that's a great question. So look, it'd be quite something if I could come up and say, here's the secret, right? Here is the answer where you can have and eat cake, where you can say, we are trustless and we don't have to sacrifice anything. So very valid criticism could be, okay, so someone needs to be able to build a secure escrow, right? So if the protocol is not going to do it, someone has to do it, and so who's going to do it, right? I think that's very valid. And so this topic, this idea is not about saying, I recognize that by moving it out of the protocol, we might simplify things in one place, but create complexity in another place. Is that a net gain? I think yes, it is a net gain. And the reason is because users have choice about escrow, about apps they use. It's basically that users have choice about the apps that they use. And so you can have a competition between these escrows, and those will compete not just on the dimension of the level of trustlessness. They'll compete on the entire world of what users want to experience, right? Users really like stablecoins. Maybe stablecoins are quote-unquote bad or trustful or whatever, but users like them, so people compete for users. So users have the choice. The better escrows will quote-unquote better. The escrows that serve users will emerge, and crucially, there won't be an issue where a single escrow's problem kills every other app and every other escrow. So the gas token escrow being this big example. Like if that's compromised on a roll today, someone mints infinity gas to themselves, bids up the gas price to infinity. The whole thing is the whole network is broken. Whereas a single escrow is ideally contained. Now you could say to that, well, even on the L1, that's not really true. If USDC got compromised, then Circle would force a hard fork through because they actually control the L1. So there's that issue too, but that's also on the L1. I'll say another thing that's bad about my idea here, another objection against myself, which is that if you have competition over escrows, and that competition, even if that does a good job in terms of serving user interests, you are still going to end up with chaos, right? Like two escrows compete for the same asset, right? USDC, USDT are examples of this. It's the same asset, it's $1. If you have that on a grand scale, then you're gonna have a lot of chaos. Users are gonna be like, wait, I'm getting this token on the L2 that represents this same thing as this token, but they have different trust assumptions. So yes, this is a problem. That's another downside to this approach. You get more chaos. It's a lot simpler if you just say, price of admission at the door, the landlord, I trust the landlord controls everything, which is why I think not everyone should have a trustless L2. But if you are an app, you should weigh, is having the convenience of one asset representation, one security assumption, all the stuff, is that convenience better than the promise of non-interference? Non-interference meaning that, like, it's all the stuff, good or bad, that happens is between you and your users, and so it's like non-interference versus that convenience, and there is no right answer, I would say, basically. Like, it's you have to choose as an app, as a user. No, you got, yep.
What do you think about the future of immutable rollups like Facet in a world where we have also native rollups?
Right, so that's a great question. So what's up with native rollups? How do they relate? So native rollups, and there's a new EIP on this from the great Luca Dono. Shout out, Luca, if you're watching this in heaven. My theory is when you die, you get to watch everything that's ever been said about you, or he could watch the live stream. But there's a new EIP about this that's either merged or not, and I've been trying to get a chance to sit down and like really pore over it. But like native rollups are happening. It's going to be a long time, right? It's going to be years from now. So in some sense, it kind of doesn't matter what we say, because like who knows what the world's going to look like then, and the history of Ethereum is being made today. But the promise of native rollups is the proof system is guaranteed to work, right? The proof system is guaranteed to work. That if the proof system of the rollup fails, the L1 has failed, and there'll be a hard fork and a social recovery. And so in a world where the proof system is guaranteed to work, then this changes. Then you could have a situation where everyone can blindly trust the same proof system because you're trusting the same thing you have to trust anyway. There's no additional assumption. And I think that would be great, and that would definitely change this a lot. I would say that native rollups do require, obviously, if you know about native rollups, that they require certain restrictions. You have to have the exact state transition function that Ethereum has. So that's a major restriction. It has to be EVM equivalent in every way, right? So you can't have an extra precompile. Like when people say EVM equivalent, they often mean like basically that, but it has to be exactly the same. No precompiles, which means maybe less innovation for some rollups that want it, so that'll be relevant. But the main thing I would say is native rollups are great. They're down the road. They could change this calculus, but we have to like build them first, and we should all like try to do that. And I definitely want to contribute. And it would be great if this whole presentation were rendered completely obsolete by native rollups for sure.
Okay, so my question is...
Hold on a sec. My thing died here. Did I? Hold on. This died. Can I? So annoying. Sorry. So sorry. Annoying.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Good,
now,
good,
perfect.
good. So I would argue that not even Ethereum itself is immutable, right? So what do you think about, instead of having full immutability, have some decentralized form of governance? So not a single admin, but decentralized voting on upgrades.
Right, so it's a good question. So what's going on with even the L1? So part of it is I just want to say, hey, like L1's not my problem. Like I'm just trying to be as close to the L1 as possible. So that's one thing. Like I'm trying to say, let's get a rollup that doesn't have additional stuff. Like the L1 has code. You have to accept that, and norms. The rollup has code. Let's have there be nothing else on top of the L1 as the code is kind of the idea, versus like what's going on with the L1. But yeah, how decentralized is the L1 anyway? This guy, Vitalik, very smart guy, has outsized interests. There is literally the case of the stablecoin holders. Like there's a very famous blog post on Medium from like 5 years ago that says basically the L1 can never be forked again. Right? This was 5 years ago. The L1 can never be forked again because of stablecoins. The DAO hack can never happen, or can never happen in that way, the recovery. And people on Twitter even recently were kind of talking about this question. What happens if Circle, wants to fork? And then it's like, welcome to 5 years ago. Like this is like a major thing. So yeah, I think the processes that lead to change on Ethereum are in practice rather centralized. Look where we are today. This is not just some random thing that happened. People planned this conference and planned everything around it. And if you look at the EF's priorities, they drastically shape what happens, right? Like they put out these 3 priorities: scale the O1, scale the blobs, improve UX, and then that makes a difference in what is happening. But I still think it's pretty great that you, in the end of the day, at least you can keep running the old version. I think there's a soft power kind of thing there that keeps people in line. So I am still, I'm still very partial to the way it works, where at least you can't force someone to do it. I'm also, like my history in life, like before this, I was, I have a whole origin story with this company I made called Genius.com, which is a lyrics website, and I was the CEO of that. And so in that many-year thing, I had all these experiences with like company governance, how you organize a company, and board and corporate governance. And this was a pretty small company in relation to what I'm sure many people out here have even like run or been in contact with, and like, it's just so hard. It is so hard to do good governance, and there's a reason why corporations in America, are run by dictators. Basically, like that is kind of the the dominant mode for a reason. So I think it's just very hard to do like the DAO type thing. But this is somewhat of my bias, maybe. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the L1. Shout out L1. I still love you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's only one more question from. Okay, no more. Only one? What? No? Okay. Anyway, thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. I'm Tom Lehman from Facet. Please hit me up on Twitter at dumbnamenumbers. Working on changing that handle pending Twitter's marketplace, but you can always hit me up. Really appreciate any feedback you have in this presentation, or if you want to collaborate on anything relating to immutable rollups. If you are, or any rollup even with an exit window, right? If you are listening to this, you are in the top 0.0001% of people who care about decentralization and trustlessness. So even if you even if you disagree with a lot of what I'm saying, like we probably agree on a ton. So please hit me up, and thanks so much. Have a great DevConnect. Peace.